From the town, we have our town administrator, Dan Nason, who will not be on video this evening. We have assistant town administrator, Allison Mitchell, and we also have our executive assistant, Julie Doucette, whose video is not working. You will not see her either. I will introduce guests as those agenda items come up, but having called the meeting to order, I will open it up for public communication. If you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand, either using the expression, what are they called now? Reactions, or wave your hand at us and turn your video on, please. Okay, I see Liz. Liz, if you could state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Liz Ruark, address 12 Orchard Hill. And I'm here to note the fact that 3 weeks ago, the select board censured Don Ludwig, asked him to resign from the select board, and yet he still remains here. Not only that, but he's running for a re-election. And I really want to ask what makes him think the rules don't apply to him, and why he feels he can defy what the board has asked him to do. That seems to me to not be the action of a responsible, accountable adult, let alone someone with the kind of character that makes them fit to serve as part of the executive branch of town government or any government. They're the actions of a person who believes the rules only apply to other people, not to them. They reflect complete self-centeredness, an inflated sense of entitlement, and a lack of maturity. If you were a decent adult, Don, you'd be gone by now. That's all.
Great. All right. Thank you, Liz. Any other public comment? I'm not seeing any. If you are and I can't see you, you could unmute yourself and shout out, but I can't see anybody else. Does anybody see anybody else? Okay.
No.
Okay, great. Moving on, our first agenda item is been put off a couple times, so we are here to welcome, and I would look to, I don't know who's introducing Alice. Allie, are you going to introduce our town planner, Chris DeVeda?
Yes, I
There
am.
he is. Welcome,
there he is.
Chris.
That's what I was looking for. There's Chris.
Hello.
So Chris will give us a little background on himself, but we're really super excited to have him here on a part-time basis for the time being. So he's in the office right now, Mondays and Thursdays, and then doing planning board and ZBA meetings. But he can tell us a little bit about his background. We're thrilled to have him. It's been great. He's been here for a little few weeks, a month. Great. Chris, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for having me tonight and for having me in Hildreth House too. I'm a planner by profession. I've been a planner for about 25 years. My background is in larger communities, I admit. I've been in private practice, if you will, consulting for the past 10 or so years while raising a couple of kids, and it worked out well to work from the dining room table, but now I like the office again. The situation is I'm getting familiar with the community. Everyone's been great, very welcoming and polite. I'm appreciative of literally everyone I've met thus far has been very, very nice. Was able to explore the library a little bit. I went to a talk last week. It was great. I've been, well, I guess I'll give you a little bit more of my background. I have the 3 communities I've worked for as a planner were in Somerville, Waltham, and Haverhill, Mass. And I've also got a little bit of a background in before my planning world, after I got out of college, or during college, I worked in construction. So I've got some background in the field of construction, working in sort of heavy construction and carpentry, and a little bit of background in marketing and for design firms right after school. So I've got sort of a varied background, but I've worked on a lot of infrastructure projects, which that background seemed to help, and appreciated being able to talk the talk sometimes when I needed to. Um, in my home where I live right now is in Medford, Mass. And I volunteer a couple of organizations and sat on the library building committee, which we just built a new library a couple of years ago. And what else can I tell you? Uh, that uses up a lot of my time. The so now that the kids aren't dragging me off to soccer games and basketball games as much, the organizations that I'm part of is scholarship foundations and an educational grants foundation here where I live. So um, I sit on the boards for those things.
Great. Thanks, Chris. I hear good things about you already. It's really great to have you on board. Do any of my fellow select board members have any questions for Chris? No? All right. Well, Chris, you've joined us at an opportune time. We certainly have a few planning board warrant articles on for our town meeting. We have projects right and left, so we're really thrilled to have you. And please make sure to let us know if there's anything you need. I think he froze. All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Next up on our agenda is the Ginny Thurston Scholarship. I think members are familiar with this scholarship. It's in the packet. Julie has asked us to review it and also select 2 members from the select board who would volunteer to review letters of interest that have been submitted. So do members want me to put that up or have questions about the scholarship?
I don't have any questions. I'm happy to review.
Okay, great.
Great.
Is there another person interested or willing to do that for us?
I'll do it, Susan Mayor.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Julie, is there anything else you need from that?
Nope, that's it. There's been ads, a notice ran in the Harvard Press, and it will the next couple of weeks. And the school guidance department is aware of the scholarship, so they are informing students. So hopefully we'll get a few letters in.
All right, great. And the awards are still in the end of May, early June timeframe? Is that
Correct.
still the award night?
Yep, the awards will be given at awards night
Great.
for seniors.
All right.
Yep.
Rich and Dunn, thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Julie.
You're
All
welcome.
right, next is Brad here? Let's see if Brad's here.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
Awesome.
Brad is
Welcome,
here.
Brad. All right, so in your packet was some materials that Brad has presented to us after working on them. It is the application form, some criteria, as well as a project that could be proposed to us at some point. So Brad, I'm going to let you, I know you received some questions from members. I don't know if other members didn't have a chance and maybe want to ask some questions, but would you like to walk us through the process and your recommendations?
Sure, yeah, we've been working to get this together for you, and the author of the documents, Aaron, should be joining if he's not on at this point. But we wanted to get together a proposal, way to get anyone to kind of be able to submit a proposal to be able to utilize some of these opioid abatement funds that have been given to the towns. So we kind of started looking around at other towns and how they were doing some of their projects, and several towns do basically grant programs of various types. Some of them are very small, sort of mini grant programs, and some of them are bigger programs that can be funded for $60,000 or so. And so with that range of options, we figured that it would be a good kind of first rush at trying to get some ideas into the town. So we built the criteria, kind of started from the Bourne criteria that they have for their mini grant proposals, and then through various other towns, including Dedham and excuse me, that have these programs in place. And we put the community navigator in the packet as just kind of an early pass. Keith Babu put that together really kind of on the fly, just to give us a quick look at how something might stack up against the criteria before we really had the application even written. And so we like the idea of the community navigator, and we figured we'd include it kind of as a preview of what may be coming down the line, hopefully in short order. And then the third big piece there is the actual application document. And we put that together. Aaron wrote that too as the lead author, and got a lot of comments back from the committee on suggestions for improvements there. And so really, this is a first pass. We're not yet asking for the select board to formally approve this. We're just kind of trying to collect your impressions, what you think, and kind of get some guidance on how we might be able to go through a test run in town, who we need to kind of network with to be able to get the appropriate mechanisms to actually deliver funds to the appropriate party, if they are awarded. And yeah, it's been the committee's been working hard and doing a great job, and we've really, I think, made some good progress, and so we thought a check-in was warranted.
Perfect. Great. I can put the application up on the screen if members want that, or do members have questions for Brad? I know I've peppered him with questions lately, but wanted to give members a chance to ask questions about the.
I think it'd be great if you could share the screen just for the
Yeah.
public information part of it.
Will do. Julie, can you turn sharing on
Thank you.
for me?
Yep.
Thanks.
Hey, Brad, while we're waiting for that to come up, can you remind everyone kind of the cadence to which you'll be doing grants? Is it going to come once per quarter on a rolling basis?
So at this point, we're just going to start on a rolling basis, and as grants come in, or proposals come in, we'll be able to review them. And so, if at some point we hit kind of a critical mass and there's just too much, we'll put in some sort of staging mechanism.
Okay, terrific.
Great. So everybody can see the criteria up on the screen? Yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Maybe so. Great, thanks. Okay. So Brad, you made some changes. Is that based on work that Aaron, I'm not sure, maybe you speak to this, the changes that you've made and you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of context, if it's helpful. Yeah, we had looked at a couple of different sources to try to help advise and direct the development of these tools. One in particular was through the town of Bourne. They had some criteria that we had leveraged just to make sure that we're doing the right things in sort of the right way. So that really helped to advise us here. And so the one change, as you can see here, that's the strikeout, was just that our committee, our working group, had thought that it would be helpful to adjust this one question so that it aligned with the Town of Harvard opioid settlement survey, and giving a little bit more priority, if you will, to projects that would align with some of the priorities that were listed in that survey there. Also, if a project was presented that had broader sort of scope and involved other towns where there are some municipalities that are pooling some of their funds in order to have a bigger impact. And so that's where the regional partnerships component there comes into play. So that would give a little bit priority there to those types of projects as well. So this question in particular is a little bit multifaceted, but if the project requester does meet all of those criteria, then they would get a higher score ultimately at the end. So yeah, that was kind of the bigger change that we made to the criteria here.
Great. And then this all flowed into the actual form that people would fill out and submit with their request.
That's right.
One of the questions I had for Brad, I had read online that any procurement, these funds still need to follow the town procurement laws. So I sent that back to Brad. How that gets addressed is TBD, but we at least have Ally on board as our procurement officer, so she could work with you, Brad, and determine how that might fit in with this.
Certainly.
Yeah, if there are things, happy to make adjustments. It's not a problem at all. If based on those procurement laws, yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay.
And then the couple of changes that we had made here, so we did the criteria, and then the form was basically built off the criteria. So one just sort of flowed into the other in order to kind of make it a little bit easier for everyone to do this process. And so we had looked at including a component about reporting, so impact reporting, so that this committee would be able to be informed about the progress and the status of the project itself over time, some of the measures as well. You can see there, yeah, in point 6 there in section 5, it talks about that a little bit, and then also about the funds, and the expenditures for the funds, so that you can sort of keep tabs on that as well. Also, there were changes regarding just having a little bit of insight from the project requester about where the funds would be kept and sort of in what manner. So we included a question or two about that, just to give a little bit more detail, just to make sure everything was sort of on the up and up with those funds, and that being managed by that requester ultimately. Yeah, and then we included.
Aaron, there is a annual report required with this the fund, right? That has to be submitted annually.
Sorry,
Yes,
are
that's
you
correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we did include the conflict of interest section as disclosure. And so we had questions just around making sure that the verbiage was appropriate, and that there weren't any sort of legal issues related to the how the question and some of the other verbiage is listed there. So just to give sort of a disclaimer there that we thought it would be helpful to include that, so that if they did not disclose all sort of known potential conflicts of interest, that it could deem them disqualified from being able to apply and or revocation of funds that were awarded ultimately, just to make sure that there weren't any sort of issues with the process.
Okay. All right, let's stop there for a second and see if members have questions about all of that. Charles, yeah.
Is it a good idea to have town council take a look at this?
Yeah, we were hoping that once we kind of get a little bit further along, or if you are happy with where it's sitting right now, it would get a good review from the town council just to make sure everything's on the up and up.
Okay.
Great.
Yes, through the chair, I agree with Charles. That should definitely be run by council. And just to reiterate, all of the procurement of goods and services would have to come through the TA's office, and we'd have to have the contracts or anything on record with ourselves, as well as Jared, the finance director.
Right, so you'd have to figure that out, right? Because if a requester came and said, I'd like $20,000 to do X, Y, and Z, we can't necessarily spend that without also getting 2 quotes from other people who would like to provide X, Y, and Z, right? So that's gonna need to mesh with the form and what's written in it, Brad. And so maybe Ally could work with you for any language that you need, but it's an additional step to your process. And who does
Would
that?
we be able to have applicants get various quotes for items
Ally, I'm going to
as
defer to
opposed
you.
to?
They could do that, yes?
Yeah, well, why don't I look at this a little more in depth tomorrow, Brad and Aaron, and I can jot down some notes and kind of see some things that stick out, and we kind of work on it that way. Because there may be things a lot of times that has to do with the amount of money and things like that. So if I do that, we can kind of head in that direction.
Great.
Perfect.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Great question. Cara?
I wondered if this looks great. I know that we're a much smaller community than either Dedham or Bourne. And I wondered if you had kind of a strategy for outreach or how you would, what your thoughts were on soliciting nonprofits or other collaborators to come in and actually know that they could, apply for one of these grants, how we plan to advertise.
Yeah, so that is one of our ongoing kind of old business points that we kind of discuss at every meeting is how we can get word out. So far, we've gotten, email blasts using the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health to kind of connect us to nonprofit organizations, reaching out to other local newspapers and putting something up on a notice board that people could apply for these grants. We're happy to take any recommendations that people have on how we might be able to disseminate the information. Really getting the call out is kind of the biggest challenge that we're trying to overcome at this point.
Is there any sort of repository for the other communities or in the state of kind of groups that are engaging in this or not?
I don't know that there's a repository. There are certainly a lot of interlinked services and providers that know each other. And so once you kind of get into the network, you can reach around and find other people within the network that you can reach out to. Certainly in the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health is really integral for the immediate area. And we're already talking with them about various options. So it's really, I'm open to all suggestions on that front.
And the last part is, rather than waiting for potential organizations to come to you, have you guys thought about designing or developing a proposal that you would target all the terrific criteria you've included here?
So
Perhaps.
yeah, I think we included the community navigator kind of rough draft proposal, and that's something that we're kind of largely putting together ourselves as an idea and concept, led by Chief Babu, as they already have a good partnership with the Advocates organization. And also, I've been talking to the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health about maybe entering into an intermunicipal agreement to try and use some of these funds within the WARDA region. And so certainly one of the things that we will be doing as committee members is going out and trying to find some of these things ourselves and kind of soliciting organizations or programs that we think could really apply.
Well, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate this criteria and the work you've done. Thank you.
Thanks, Cara.
Thanks.
Richard, on anything, or I can put up the navigator proposal. All right, so I can just pull that up for us. So this sounded really fascinating and great idea, especially because of the survey input of sharing our resources with other towns. And if I don't know if you want to cover this at all, Brad, or members have questions about this particular item.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to just make a point that this is kind of expanding upon a service that we already utilize with the co-clinician that's housed at the Harvard Police Department. And so this will really allow for follow-up care after an incident in which the co-clinician has been involved. And so it's a real kind of gap in the current program. And so we think this follows the request from CARE Massachusetts to, increase the utilization of effective policies. And I think it just lends itself very nicely to this program.
Great. Anybody have questions for Brad about it at this point? I know it's just a draft and a proposal, but you'll bring it back to us, Brad, if that's how does it, so then I would think expenditures, do they get suggested to the select board for approval? That's where we started the year kind of, but
So
what do you
I
see
think
as the
what
process?
I think the process at this point would be that we at the working group would collect these proposals and then we'd go through the criteria individually. I'm not sure, we haven't quite decided if we'd have 3 major reviewers and then we'd discuss as a team or how we're going to do that process quite yet, but somehow the committee will evaluate all the proposals. And then at when we have come to decisions, we'll come to the board with either a recommendation to fund or to pass on such proposals. And then we can take it, you know, kind of on a case by case basis at this point.
Okay, so you anticipate a rolling thing as opposed to like a quarterly deadline or,
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, I think we want kind of maximum outreach and the maximum ability for people to kind of request these funds and get an idea of what sort of proposals might come in. And, you know, if we only get 2 proposals a year, I don't think putting a time limit on when they come in is important. If we start to get 30, then we'll probably have to put in some sort of deadline and review schedule.
got it, great, smart. Are there any other questions for Brad and Aaron?
No.
Yeah, great work, guys. I mean, a short period of time, very well thought out. I think, you know, even that Navigator program, I think is a great extension on an already successful, you know, program Chief's been rolling out. So kudos to you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great.
And
Thank you so much.
major
And
props
thanks.
to Aaron for leading the authoring of the documents.
It was
Thank you,
a team
Aaron.
effort. It's group effort. Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
All right,
Yeah, I'm
Thank
excited.
you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Brad, tell the rest of the committee thank you as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
thank
it.
you, Brad, thank you, Aaron.
Yep, thanks.
All
Thank you.
right. Next up is Dr. Linda Dwight from the school superintendent of schools, and the need for us to sign, approve a statement of interest, statement for the MSBA funding. It's for a project for the HVAC system at Bromfield. The MSBA does give out partial funding. It's not just for new buildings, so I'll turn it over to Linda. Hang on, I can pull up the document while you introduce it, Linda. I'll search for it.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And so the last time we sought help from MSBA was in 2016 when we did a statement of interest for the elementary school. That was for a full building review. This time we're going for what's called accelerated repair. And about the time when we were studying the options for HVAC and working closely with HEAC, we also learned that MSBA was prioritizing heat pumps. So we've been in contract with NV5. And if you remember, NV5 was involved with the HES project as our owner's project manager was from NV5. So they were awarded the contract to study the options. And just recently they came back with 4 options, presented them to the school committee representative, which is Abby Bessie, myself, John Tarlick, the facilities director, and Forrest from HEAC. And 3 of those options include heat pumps. So as soon as we had that report in hand, we right away started to prepare to enter the MSBA accelerated repair proposal. And the deadline is the 21st, which is this week. So school committee voted at their last meeting. It's really just a vote to allow me to submit it. It is not any agreement on MSBA's part, but I'm hoping because we have a recent study, and in fact, we have 2 studies. We have a condition study that was done in 2020, and that just really looked at what the current state of the HVAC was. And now this is another study done this year in 2025, funded through the CPIC project or process. And those 2 studies together are submitted with our statement of interest. So it really adds the credibility to it that they're looking for. So my hope is that if we can submit, then we may get funding help for this large project. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I can put it up. This is the statement. Anybody have questions for Linda?
Yeah, Linda, I had a question. You said 3 of the options involved heat pumps. Did we look at other alternatives, simply replacing the type that's already there? And was there sort of a long-term cost estimation done over time as to which is more beneficial that kind of led you to this decision? Or
Yeah, they're still actually doing the pricing, but one of them was geothermal. That was the one that's really probably considered cost prohibitive
Yeah.
in an already existing building. And you know that we looked at that when we were studying HES. At this point, it isn't recommended for a replacement of similar units to what we have. And that is because we're also trying to be matching the green community and electrifying the buildings. So that's where heat pumps come in, and there's different ways for the heat pumps to be put into place, and that's what they're pricing out. As well as MSBA will help us with a roof study. So when you replace those units, it often impacts the roof. So they don't do heat pumps without a consideration of a roof replacement, whether it's the structural need because some of the units will be large, or whether it's just because you are impacting the membrane, that's a membrane roof at the top of Brownfield. So it will be impacted by the fact that they're taking units off and putting new units on top of the roof.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see the the overall cost structure for each of the alternatives and what it looks like rolling out. One, you may not have to replace the roof, one you might. Does the MSBA process for this kind of mirror what we did with the school project? Do they look at, replace, repair, complete overhaul? Is it similar kind of thing where you have to present those options to them before they approve, or is it?
Yeah, Don, I'm not fully aware of exactly what the process looks like with accelerated repair. I know that, they will agree to a percentage of the money, but many of the decisions about what moves forward in the different options will still be a town-based decision. So, we don't lose the ability to make those decisions in the town. They just help with funding, and it has to involve heat pumps in order for them to agree to funding.
Does that mean that they would, I remember you said, Linda, does that mean that they would, since they're doing the roof study, would they also help offset any of the cost of roof repair or changes?
Yes. So I may have misspoke. They don't actually do the roof study, but they help fund the roof study. So it would still go out with the same procurement process that we would do any other project, but they would help to fund that for the town.
But after that, if they determine that there need to be changes to the roof along with the heat pumps, they would help fund
Yes.
whatever roof changes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All
So
right,
did you have any
I-
examples of other projects like this that MSBA has funded, just an idea on the percentages? I know that was kind of the big thing with the school project, knowing what kind of percentage they would do, it kind of helps.
Right. I don't know. For accelerated repair, it does depend on how many projects are submitted at the same time and what building projects they have going as well. So I just think we've got a really good chance because of the work that's already been done and funded by the town. So we seem to be just in this perfect prime position to get funding versus funding the project completely in town. So I think it's worth certainly pursuing and seeing what percentage they might come back with.
Can I ask one other question?
Sure.
Is there a backup system to that then, if there's an extended period of time, especially since that building is a warming or cooling area, whatever the case may be? I
Yeah,
don't know.
all of the three designs that are moving forward, all of them keep the boiler in place for two reasons. One, for backup on the really cold days, you do need something other than the heat pumps. And also because hot water for the cafeteria for sanitation needs to be boiler heated. So we would still maintain there's two boilers at Brownfield, and at least one would remain, likely both would remain.
That's great.
As
Thank you.
backup.
Thanks.
Great. So this has a very prescribed motion, which I have up on my screen. So if members would allow me to read that, I would Move that in accordance with our charter, bylaws, and ordinances, that we authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 19th, 2025 for the Bromfield School located at 14 Mass Ave, Harvard, Massachusetts. This SOI describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories under which an application may be submitted to the MSBA in the future: roof and heat pump conversion. The Select Board further acknowledges that by submitting this SOI, the Massachusetts School Building Authority does not guarantee the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment. Additionally, the submission does not obligate the town of Harvard to file a formal funding application with the MSBA. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll do this by roll call vote. Don,
Aye.
Charles,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Cara,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Great,
Thank
Linda,
you.
thank you for your time. Good luck. Keep us posted.
I will. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Linda.
you. All right, next up is the town administrator report. Dan or Ally? Dan, are you going to talk through this, or Ally? I just want to.
I'll be playing Dan
Okay,
Mason.
Dan, you're
Yeah.
up.
I'm on it. Give me 1 second.
You're on it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
Or
I can
Dan.
share it. Do you need it shared?
No, I think I can do it. Let me see.
Okay. You've got the power.
Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. I'll just go quickly through the Council on Aging PV. New meter was installed on Monday the 3rd, and the Solect team made the final connection on Monday, March 10th. Accounts are currently being established. Public Works Facility reviewed scope of services with the design team, Harvard team of representatives, and members of the PBC on Wednesday the 5th. Air Road Tip Project pre-construction application through Army Corps of Engineers, last known permitting hurdle, so that's good. The PCN process should be completed by the time of the final PS&E submission. 100% design package, including highway and right-of-way plans, have been submitted, and there's Mass DOT review of 30 to 60 days. The final PS&E submission is projected for June, July of 2025, and construction advertisement date projected for May or June of 2026. The Harvard Devens Water System Interconnection Pump Station, Contract 1, and Water Main Contract 2. Completed installation of all water services and tie-in to pump station suction piping. The generator and propane slabs have been poured, and under-slab utility work has been completed for plumbing and electric. And the cell tower site plans are being worked on for submittal to the town for site plan approval early in 2025. But I think that's news that we've kind of had on there consistently. Charter franchise, same consistently. Council's working with Charter on final revisions to license renewal agreement. Operations, the budget, warrant articles are being reviewed and edited by council this week, and of course, we're closing it tonight. And DPW Director David Smith will be attending a snow conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan from April 4th through April 9th. So we will need to get select board approval for him to travel out of state for that. We can do it either after this or whatever time works for everyone. Transfer station, landfill, monitoring well, and landfill gas well locations were approved by Mass DEP. Installation of the soil borings monitoring wells continues. Mass DOT bridge replacement on Jackson Road over the Nashua River and Harvard and Lancaster. 25% level highway and bridge design plans have been developed. And they're scheduling a virtual design public hearing in the coming weeks. There's a little graphic. The Town of Littleton Water Project commenced on Littleton County Road from the town line south to Beaver Brook Road. And then just enclosed is notification of our FY26 Chapter 90 funds, which were, as you can see, which is very exciting. I think more than, and now that I'm saying that, I don't know more than what, but it was more than we anticipated. And I know you all received that via email a few weeks ago.
I took the time to do the math. It is 300 and it was 354,084 last year, which is a difference of 230.96 So that is awesome that we get
All
that.
good. Yeah.
We'll take every
Always
penny.
good to get more than less.
Yeah. Questions for Ally? If not, I think we need to move to approve David Smith to go out of town to attend a snow conference
So moved.
as presented. Yeah.
Second.
Is there a second? Don seconded. Any further questions? Okay, I'm doing this by screen and I don't know who I picked first, so just be ready. Okay, we'll do by roll call vote. Don?
Aye.
Charles?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And Cara?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. All right.
So,
All right,
through the
Ally,
chair,
keep us
Susan
posted
Mary-
if there's anything that you need.
No, Susan Mary, can I just say one more thing?
Oh, Dan, yes,
apologize.
please, go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize for being out today, off camera anyways, and I do want to thank the board for allowing me the opportunity to go spend some time with my son and family, as well as all the positive notes and feedback from board members, as well as the staff in town. They've been nothing but kind and generous, so thank you for that. And then I also have to big shout out to Ally and Julie for carrying this warrant through for the last couple days. Again, I apologize. It was horrible timing on my part, but you can thank the Army for that. So thank you to everybody. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Hey, I did have a question for Ally. Ally, regarding the COA plumbing, is there any update on that?
There's not an update. Well, let's put it this way. I don't have anything as of today, this afternoon. We are working through sort of figuring out what it could possibly be, and trying to find, eliminate all the things. Could it be the pressure on the toilets? Could it be the pitch of the pipe? Could it be the excess capacity of usage, because it used to be a doctor's office and now it's hosting meetings of 60 to 80 people. So we're really trying to troubleshoot it. Jeff, David, we have plumbers coming in to kind of look at it in the same way that we looked at the old library. So we're really trying to troubleshoot it and hoping we can try out some things before we have to start looking under the floor. But I know that there was a COA meeting today, and I know David was there. Susan Mary, I wasn't there, so I don't know if he had anything else to add that maybe you'd like to share. But I know that the troubleshooting is happening, but we don't really have a clear path at the moment. We're just trying to figure out exactly what it could be.
I don't think David was there. I was relaying
Oh,
information
okay.
as much as I could, or at least taking it. I don't know if members know that there's been this problem with the women's bathrooms at Council on Aging, but they are working on it. And I did promise to relay back to them what the status of our next steps would be. So I'll get that from you tomorrow if you know more.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next would be the approval of the minutes of our February 25th and our March 4th meetings. Did people have any more corrections to these minutes post to their initial reading and editing? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 25th and March 4th.
Is there a
Second.
second? Great, motion's made and seconded. All in favor, let's see, roll call vote. Don?
Aye.
Charles?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And Cara?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Julie.
Julie.
All right, next is to act on the funding and the date for the townwide cleanup. In your packet was a explanation of what the Board of Health would, or the crew. It's not just Board of Health. There's a big crew that goes to. It's not even the Board of Health, but it's a crew, including Paul, Barbara, Jesse, Brian, Heidi, and Alyssa, who put this together. David Smith has agreed to the date and to do the work, which is fabulous. And Libby provided some wonderful statistics that we are collecting more bags every year, even though we lost a couple people last year. So hopefully we'll be getting the word out and people can participate again. But do you have anybody Libby, anything you'd like to add?
No, we are a ragtag bunch of people that started this in 2016. This is actually, I started this before I was elected to the Board of Health, along with Paul Green and a couple of other people. And we just do it as volunteers, and the select board has been kind enough to support it along the way. we keep bringing in new people just because we figure at some point some of us won't do it any longer. We think the numbers are pretty good. We get over like between 90 and 95% of the roads. You know, people don't like to do air road, but it's actually not that bad. And if it hadn't been for COVID, we would be celebrating our 10th year this year, but that's going to be next year. So we did
You get
not
a
do
lot
it.
of nips on Air Road. My portion. That's definitely fun to count.
Somebody dropped a plastic bag of nips on Old Shirley Road
Oh my
over the weekend,
gosh.
and I almost took a picture of it and posted it on Nextdoor. I was so angry.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
But I have people starting to contact me in January and February saying, "Are you doing it? Are you doing it?"
Yeah.
So, and the
great.
select board has funded it.
Yeah.
The one new thing this year is David Smith says that in his previous town, he knows that MassDOT might be able to provide the bags. So he and I are working on that.
Great.
That's actually not very expensive. It's like $63 for a box of 250 bags. But hey, anything somebody will give us is absolutely great.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Libby, I wondered if you wanted, just for the public information, to talk a little bit about the process. Are you still going through Westward Orchards to pick up the bags at a certain date time?
So overview of the process is we've divided the town, all of the roads in town, into half-mile segments. We allow residents to claim a segment of road. Susan Mary likes a part of Air Road. I like Old Shirley Road. Charles's family does Simon Atherton. And Cara, Still River Depot Road
And
sometimes.
and Myrick.
And Myrick, yep. And then we hand out supplies. We provide the bags, we provide vinyl gloves. And we give everybody a little lecture about walk into traffic, watch for ticks, don't do this, you know. And people just walk their road segment anytime from the Thursday to the Sunday, put everything into the bags, leave it on the side of the road, and DPW crews go around and start picking it up the following Monday morning. Westwood Orchards is kind enough to let us use their parking lot to hand out supplies on the Wednesday afternoon and the Saturday morning. Just because we tried doing it in the center of town and we didn't have enough space. And then we have people self-report how many bags they filled and how many people were in their group. And I've been keeping a spreadsheet, and I just decided to share it with you all this year because I thought our numbers are fairly impressive. I mean, basically, since we started this, over 1,800 volunteers since 2016 have collected over 2,600 bags of trash. And the one thing that you all probably don't know that I didn't put in the report is we do report this to Keep Massachusetts Beautiful.
Mhm.
They collect numbers throughout April and May for towns that do cleanups, and they calculate how many tons of trash are picked up off the sides of the road. So we always send them our numbers as well.
That's fabulous. All right,
Thank
great. And we're scheduling this for April 24th through 27th with the DPW pickup of April 28th.
It runs from Thursday the 24th through Sunday the 27th. Yep.
Yep, great. And funds, someone help me out here. I'm new to the funding. I know we approved the funding, but is it just in our budget? Where's the money come from out of our budget?
We usually use the Rand Tool Trust.
Okay. All right, great. All right.
And
Any questions for Libby? Sorry, Libby, you look like you wanted to say something else.
No, I wanted to say Paul Green's on the call as well.
Okay.
We try to be as economical as we possibly can. So high vis vest for the last couple of years, we basically got for free. I am looking for how I'm going to do that this year, but we try.
Okay, great. Thank you. Much appreciated. Your work and your team's work is so critical to keeping Harvard clean and beautiful, and we really appreciate all the time you put into it. So thank you.
And don't forget, we have the garlic mustard
pull, yeah.
So we're trying to contain this invasive plant.
Yes.
So and Concom has noticed the effort we're putting into that, or that really the residents are putting into that, and so
That's great.
But
It's a
thank
win-win.
you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Libby. All right. If
I'll
there are
make a
no questions,
motion.
then I would entertain a motion to approve the date and the funding.
I'll make a motion to approve the townwide cleanup for April 24th through 27th and the funding.
Of 400, up to 400.
up to $400. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Is
Second.
there a second? I think I heard a second in there, but I'm not sure who said it.
Yeah, it was
So
Rich.
there you go,
Rich, I
Charles.
think.
All right, I'll do by roll call vote. Don,
Aye.
Charles,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Cara,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Libby, thank you again. Thank
No,
you
thank
and your
you all
team.
very much and happy to have you all volunteer.
All right.
Thanks,
Leave
Libby.
me a message.
See you on the
Bye.
road. All right. Next, the heavy lift for the evening is to finalize the town warrant. I know it got to everybody late. I know Ally and Dan have been working nonstop on this over the last week. So we appreciate all that, pulling it together. And Ally, do you want to walk through it?
Yeah.
How do you want to do this? Do you
Yeah,
wanna
we can
share?
walk through it and, everyone's seen it, so that's the good,
Yep.
so I can share it and then walk through it and if we have any questions and if Dan needs to poke his, say something, he'll say something. If I need to phone a friend, I'll ask him to speak too, but let's see what we can do here.
All right, I think we
Everyone see that?
were waiting on some feedback regarding the planning board warrants, whether they all need articles, they all need to go through, whether we want to prioritize them, so when we get to that point, Rich, if you have any input, that would be great. But we'll take it from the top.
Great. All right, I'm just gonna kind of scroll through and list the articles, and I guess if you have any questions or discussion or anything, let me know. Does that feel like a good way to do it, maybe? Article 1, annual reports. It's kind of a given. Article 2, pay bills for prior fiscal years. Article 3, Inflation Reduction Act, rebate funding. We talked about this. This was to pay for the tax accountant to do the solar rebate. Article 4, fund school grant deficit. Article 5, school technology reimbursement. Article 6, school rental receipts transfer. Article 7, amendment for engineering services to complete environmental permitting on Air Road project. So this is just, that was inserted, I think, a week or two ago, or a meeting or two ago. So you've seen it. Article 8, feasibility study and preliminary concept development for public works and fire department facilities. I think we talked about this already, but essentially the article that was voted on at town meeting is specific to just a public works facility. So we did need to incorporate the fire department into that scope for the study.
Okay.
These figures here that are not there in yellow, transfer from certified free cash to the stabilization account, and Article 10, the next one. Jared will have those figures after our March 31st statement comes out.
Okay.
He had some rough figures that I can pull up in a little bit, but he'll have those for sure.
Okay, let me ask a question though here, because it's in the past in the warrant, I think it's to move a sum of money, and then Tim would run around with sheets of paper and hand out actual amounts that sometimes weren't in the book. Are we worried that putting in the amounts here, so everything you've put in are verified actual good amounts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dan, perk up if you need to say anything other than that. But yes, so everything is good, verified, and the few places where something's highlighted in yellow or it doesn't exist is because we don't have good verified amounts. And that's why Jared wanted to leave these blank on 9 and 10, because he doesn't have those figures and he won't until at the end of this month. So rather than put in a number that he figured would change, he left it blank.
So is it better to just say a sum of money? I'm going to kind of defer to maybe Dan or past members. Do we just say a sum of money and then we fix that on town floor?
I'm okay with changing it to that. I don't know how it was done in the past, but we had copied all these from prior documents. Unfortunately, we just don't get the statement until March 31st, so there's no way we would have them before April 1st.
So
Yeah, I'm not sure it matters, Susan Mary. And we've never had the actual number until the
Right.
day of town meeting.
Right. Okay. So if you don't have it, I think there's just some language called a sum of money, and then we have the actual amount at on town floor. If you look at past warrant articles, I bet our past warrant books would have only said a sum of.
Yep. Oh, and
Okay.
actually, and so the article itself, you're right, does say a sum of money.
Yeah.
And then it's the motion that's essentially blank. So that motion would be on town floor.
Is
Does it make
the
sense?
motion always printed in the warrant? Is in the book?
Now,
It is,
the motion's what you get on a piece of paper to read. So that's the
Right,
motion
but
to
so
read.
here it's in the book. Here it's in the warrant. Have they always been included in the warrant, or is it just the?
Through the chair, I can answer.
Article.
I'm trying to clean this up a little bit. So
Yeah.
in prior years, there's been multiple documents, some with the articles, some with the articles in motion, some with the articles motion, and then recommendations. I'm just trying to eliminate a lot of overlap. So I was
Okay.
including all the motions. So you're not really voting on the motions here. You're kind of voting on the articles.
Okay, good to know.
So we can definitely add that, but as Ally had stated, you can see in the actual article, it does say transfer a sum of money, and we will
Yes.
know some in shortly, and we can populate that if we have it. Otherwise, if we cannot populate it, we will just change it to transfer a sum of money.
Yeah, probably safe to send it, just do it all like that, and then we on the floor, then you're actually committed into the amounts. But if you know them and they're not going to change, then
makes sense.
okay.
Great. So Article 10 is, like I said, essentially the same, transfer from certified free cash to the capital stabilization and investment fund. Article 11, appropriate cable franchise fees. This number is slightly different than other drafts, but Jared was just able to, he had that adjusted. So this is the most accurate number.
Okay.
Article 12, omnibus budget. Yep, so that's essentially all there. This is obviously the motion, which has more detail in it. The motions will have the FinCom page numbers as we get those.
Okay.
Performance-based wage adjustments, these are the merit pay. We've gone over that before. Article 14, establish and fund a pension and OPEB stabilization fund. This wording you haven't seen before, this specific wording, but we've gone through this idea with you all. But this is to see if the town will vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 5B, to 1, establish a special purpose stabilization fund to fund pension and other post-employment benefits costs, OPEB. 2, appropriate $200,000 to be deposited into said fund, and 3, provide for said appropriation by raising $200,000 from real and personal property taxes, contingent upon the passage of Prop 2.5 ballot question at the 2025 annual town election to be held on May 6th, 2025, or pass any vote or votes in relation thereto. And then this is associated with a ballot question that's at the end of the warrant. Article 15, capital planning and investment committee recommended expenditures. We've seen all this. Article 16, capital planning and investment committee debt payment. Article
Wasn't
7.
there a question when we went through this the first time of why it was separate and not just included as a line item in the grid? Charles, didn't you have that question?
Sorry, can you say that again?
So why it's a separate article number was the comment at the
Right.
time we reviewed this last time, is that it would just be another line item in the grid as opposed to called out as a separate warrant article.
I took a look at that.
Historically, Susan Mary, the grid had the things that come right out of the actual fund, and
Yeah.
and the debt ones were separate.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great,
because
thanks.
it's
I
not
looked at
listed
it,
as a separate
yeah.
project. Yeah, because through the chair, it wouldn't be listed as a separate project because it's funded through debt on as a separate article.
Okay.
It's been listed separately in previous warrants, so.
Okay. I just remember you raising it as a question
Yep.
last time.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Article 17, purchase property for recreation purposes.
And if I can interrupt 1 second, Ally, through the chair, And to the rest of the board members, this is something I didn't want to make the announcement at this venture, but I was advised by town council to include this and take out the redaction since the purchase and sales is it was approved by both the sellers and the seller's attorney. So we're on track to execute or have the board execute that as soon as we get it in hands.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Article 18, designate Harvard Park as parkland for recreational use. Article 19, rescind prior borrowing authorizations. Article 20, Community Preservation Committee report. Article 21, Community Preservation Committee. Article 22, Harvard Park track debt authorization. Article 23, FY 2026 enterprise fund budgets. Article 24, establish building permits revolving fund. Article 25, revolving funds. Article 26, acceptance of gifts of property. Article 27, acceptance of highway funds. Article 28, authorize select board to acquire land and easements for Air Road project. And Dan, I don't know if there's anything to add to this, but this is essentially sort of a little bit of a revote because the plans have changed in terms of the easements that were voted on in a prior town meeting.
Yeah, I can elaborate on that a little bit, Ally, through the chair. So the prior article to authorize the permanent utility easements and the other temporary easements were written out specific for each property, and each easement was called out by for what it was, basically, whether it's a temporary easement or a permanent easement. Typically, they're not done that way. Typically, the way I've seen them in the past is that they're much more generic because, in my opinion, they shouldn't have been called out that way at the 25 or 50% design, because a lot of the easements did change due to some conservation matters, as well as we were trying to keep the project out of Article 97, so it wouldn't be more complicated. So the way I've seen these written mostly is very generic the way this is. However, I tried to keep it as generic as possible. There is one additional sentence I wanted included here. However, town council advised against it so that we wouldn't have to come back to town meeting. So if there is any other changes in the current 100% design easements as shown on the drawings, then we will have to have a special town meeting, or the next town meeting we have to approve them again. So I'm trying to alleviate that. However, I was advised against adding in that additional sentence by council. So unfortunately, we're at this point, but we're improving.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Article 29 is to accept MGL Chapter 41, Sections 111M and 111N. Article 30, amend the Code of Harvard, Article 3, Chapter 44, dogs. It's a long one. Article 32, amend the Code of Harvard, Chapter 32, fees.
And through the chair, Ally, hold on one second. One more thing. I know there's a question on this one before. Basically, this is just taking out this this chart for all intents and purposes because it lives in the bylaw. The select board has changed and voted these fees separately, and they have the right to do that. So those votes that have happened subsequent to the posting or the development and printing of this chart now don't align with this chart. So we're going to keep the way the board votes these fees on a regular basis, and so it doesn't so it lines up basically so it does, because it doesn't line up with this chart. So we're trying to get rid of this outline in this chart and just stick with the board's fees and as voted, if that makes sense.
The fees will
aren't
still
going away,
exist,
it's just coming
but
out
this
of
won't be
the
printed.
bylaw.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carl. what?
Correct. Yeah, it won't be printed in the bylaw because it's
Right.
easier to make a change. Otherwise, in order to make any changes, you have to change it in a town meeting. In this way, the board, who has control over the fees and adjusts them as needed, that we don't have to go through a bylaw change.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Article 33 is the Harvard Municipal Affordable Trust Charter change. and then we get into planning board. So Article 34, amend the protective bylaw 125-2 definitions. Of course, I just found a typo. Does anyone care that I fix this? Thank you. So we've seen all this. The planning board did make a change at their meeting. Instead of property, they changed to premises because there was some confusion, I think, in the last meeting. So we did make that change.
Okay.
I may not remember all the other changes they had me made, but I remember that one. Article 35, amend the protective bylaw 125-13J, medium scale commercial use. Article 36, amend the protective bylaw 125-13Z, medium scale commercial uses. Article 37, amend the protective bylaw 125-18.1, accessory dwelling units. What is a change? I don't know if it was in this one. It's long. Article 38, amend the protective bylaw 125-23, permitted uses in C district. Article 39, amend the protective bylaw 125-42, zoning map. Article 40, amend the protective bylaw 125-54, flood plain districts. Article, it's coming. It's a fun one.
They're all fun, Ally.
Yeah, they are fun. Let's see. Article 41, Planning Board, add the protective bylaw 125-61, Town Center Overlay District.
Could I ask a question about that? So looking through this, I thought that they were going to come back to us with maybe reducing one of these huge bylaw proposals.
Hey, Cara, they discussed that last night, and the feeling was they're all ready. They're ready to go, and they'd like feedback. So I walked them through past challenges that you and I have had as past members of the planning board. They fully understand that, but they really wanted to get going. And they're ready. You know, I'm not saying they're going to pass, but they're ready to present. And
You know, the one thing that gives me pause, I totally get that, is with respect to particularly the Town Center Overlay District, because they did send a letter out to the residents, but I don't think they had any type of charrette or anything like that. And I think that this particular thing is complicated. And what my understanding is, Rich, you let me know, if they go forward with this and it does not pass, then it's, you know, embargoed for another 2 years. Is that right? Can't bring it up again?
potentially,
Unless they withdraw it without prejudice, right?
yeah, exactly. You know, there are some ways to avoid that or change it, but yeah, if they came back with the same thing, you know, they can't do that for 2 years. You're right. So, look, all I can do is suggest. I suggested multiple times, you know, but that's where they landed. I think the design code they were interested in because we have such a revenue issue, and you know, making some potential changes around the bylaws in the commercial district to make it a little easier for business made sense. And then half the board really wanted to get moving with the town center thing. So
I totally agree with the form-based code on Air Road.
yeah, sure.
I think the other part of the balance here is, because we've gone back to one meeting, is that we should be sort of somewhat mindful of people's time. And I do fear that although there will be significant interest with respect to finance articles, that as we all know from experience, that you get later in the day, you get somebody making something kind of this sort of a decision with like a minimum quorum. And I don't know, I think particularly in town center, that concerns me. It's a lot to go through. And I think we should also balance that out with some concerns over time, in the interest of time.
What are you proposing, Cara? Because we've already sort of voted to do the one and they've asked us to put these forward. So what would be your?
Yeah, that was the thing. I think what we had said in the last meeting was, hey, why don't you guys take a hard look at this? This is a lot of stuff to get through. And we don't want to ditch anything, right? We insert in terms of, we don't want to have something go off for 2 more years. So let's be judicious about this and do the one that we need right away, which was the form-based code to hopefully encourage some commercial development, proper commercial development on our road. And let's take another look at this. And I'm particularly concerned. I mean, I think it was great that they sent a letter out to everybody, but they didn't get any responses. And, you know, people are busy, they don't have lives. And when you look at some of the setbacks that are 10 to 40 feet or whatever it is, it's a little squishy. And I personally would think this is either A, going to take a lot of time, B, people are going to be, concerned and they might not have had the opportunity to speak to it. And also in the balance of time, trying to get through these 2 major pieces.
Yeah, I hear you. I brought it up to him several times. You can watch the meeting. I was trying to get it at the same time. They were divided. Many of them thought the priority should be the town center, and others thought the priority should be around commercial district. They do anticipate doing some continued outreach over the months of next month and a half till May.
The outreach will be done though, right? I mean, the outreach will be over because the bylaw will have potentially passed, So we asked them to do something and then they would not be judicious about it. I'm disappointed that we asked them to consider that because they have a boatload of things they're trying to accomplish here, all of which have good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that I really wish that they had given some really serious thought to striking at least one of these major, as they continue to say, transformative pieces of zoning. And I think it's important.
I hear you.
Okay, but they didn't, Cara. So they've put it both forward and they're here.
I appreciate your points, Cara. They did look at it, considered it, and came back and said they'd like to move forward. They've done strong work, and I
think we have to respect that.
I'm not sure what you're asking, so I'm not sure how to respond except to continue to tell you that they did what we asked. They didn't. We asked them to consider it, and they did. I guess what's the solution here? You want to pull it? Without talking to them, it's not something I'm comfortable with, and not something I think the board should be doing. We walked them through it. They've done. You may not like how they did it, or they didn't do what you like, but they're here, and you may not like the. But I'm not comfortable with us pulling something because we think it's going to take too long.
I think we have to.
Okay, hang on.
Encourage people to go.
Cara, I think it's either a motion to pull it or not. We have to agree to disagree on it, but the time is to either make the motion and have us pull it or not.
Well, I guess my sense of my fellow board members is they don't, but I think it's, again, a balance between people that we have coming to these meetings and kind of, not managing time well. And we asked the planning board, so I'm disappointed, but I'll let it go. We'll see how it goes.
Well, it is a tall lift for Bill. I mean, it's going to be an animal to get through, but I think if planning board can be prepared as much as possible, have the supporting documentation, we'll see how it goes, unless the board right now wants to pivot and change it, but we've got the warrant.
They didn't do it. So there you go. Right? We asked them that last meeting.
Right, and we've gotten their answer. And so that's their answer, and we can, that's what I'm saying, either pull it on our own, or we can support the planning board and we have to manage the meeting. I'm just pointing out the options. If someone wants to make a motion, this would be the time.
I don't think it's a good idea to pull it.
Okay.
Just because they've done a lot of work on it. It's not really.
Okay.
It's not respectful, and we'll see how it goes to the meeting.
All right.
Wait a second. Not respectful is not listening to the feedback that select board gave them last week.
Hey,
Okay, hang on. Let's
Cara,
not go there.
I-
Let's not go
We're
there,
good.
everybody.
We're good.
We're
They
making
did
our way
ask what
through
you
the
did.
warrant.
You know, I think you're harboring on this too much. I get what you're saying. I absolutely do. But to try to poke the planning board, who's been working really hard on this, because they didn't listen specifically to what we asked them to consider it, then suggested strongly that they may want to do it. They did not. They were like, well, what happens in the fall when we do a special town meeting on one warrant, and who's going to show up for that? So there are lots of things about this, but to kind of take a shot at a committee that's working really hard where I'm struggling to get volunteers isn't helpful.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
their motion and they've decided to bring it forward. We have to respect that. I mean, that's why
I
we have.
get you may not like it or want to support it, but
Okay. I'm going to have us keep moving on. Cara, we heard your concerns where you got some heavy lift ahead of us to get this through. So Ally, if you could keep walking us through the warrant.
You bet. This is a long one.
So my question on this would be, there's a lot of people who have spoken to us as a board in opposition to this. Did we want to pull this out and have it placed earlier ahead of the planning board articles, or should we leave the erosion control bylaw in its slot where it currently is? Do members have an opinion about that?
I'll give you the planning board's point of view. If I recall, they're like, it's not our article, so you don't have to lump it in with planning board articles.
Right.
So
Do you have a recommendation, Rich?
Yeah, I think you couldn't. I do think there'll be some pretty robust debate about it. So I was trying to figure out: do we leave it? You don't want to leave it for last.
Keep people in their seats.
Yeah, one way we hold them hostage is by putting something at the end that they definitely don't want. But they're just going to get crankier by the end of the day. So I don't think that's good.
Right.
We certainly have heard, I'm sure, concerns.
Why don't we move it to before
I don't want to bias the warrant by talking about pros and cons of the warrant, but I do think we could move it up after. Maybe some of the budgeting.
Yeah, or maybe we just move it to the top of the planning, right ahead of the planning board articles.
Yeah, you could go there. The planning board was just kind of like, hey, we're a party to this, but it's not our warrant, so you can kind of put it where the select board deems appropriate.
Would there be any objection by members to move this to the top of just ahead of the planning board articles?
Only Dan and Ally, because they got to reformat it again. But
I know.
I would just keep it where it is. It's going to be hard enough to get through the PB stuff anyway, so wouldn't want to make it.
Okay.
I'd rather have a majority of people there to understand the PB bylaws than other people.
Okay. All right. If no one's got a strong idea about moving it, we'll keep it where it is.
Okay.
Then you have the form-based code.
Yep, and then we'll get there. Article 43, add the protective bylaw, Article 10, sections 125-70 through 125-73, form-based code. This has obviously a lot of text and graphics. Graphics are nice though. I do appreciate them.
We're trying to use a lot more visuals to help sell in planning board.
It does help.
It does help.
Good.
Yeah.
And I was going to speak to the moderator about being able to put some of this up on the screen.
I do think, though, out of respect for the planning board, we might want to move that erosion control bylaw prior to the discussion of the planning board articles. So it's not sort of this potential discussion, hijacking the middle of their articles. So something to think about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. I thought we were moving it to the top of the planning board. Before all.
Do we agree on that? I don't know that we agreed on that. That's what I'm suggesting. But
oh, I'm sorry, and I zoned out for a minute.
Okay, I heard that we didn't want to put Ally through rewording everything.
Oh,
and
that's
then
all right.
hear
That's right.
anyone counter it. So can we revisit it? Is there a motion to move it?
I make a motion to move the erosion control bylaw to, I don't have the specific number, Ally, but it would be the first.
So,
It would
but
be
yeah, before the first.
before the
board
first
article.
planning board article.
Okay, is
I'll
there a
second
second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Don,
Aye.
Charles,
Aye.
Cara,
Aye.
and Rich,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right, so we'll move that one, just to keep you on your toes, Ally.
Gotta
The
do
other
it.
one, then, I mean, you could also, I think, probably keep the demolition delay bylaw, but that's also not a planning board article, but maybe that would keep some people there.
Right, and I think
the last
that
one,
the
right?
demolition's the last one anyway,
It
yeah.
is, yep.
So it's like a planning board sandwich now. Article 44, adopt the demolition delay bylaw.
I want to call out something here. I think that they changed that from 18 months to 24 with respect to the time period before demolition.
Oh, okay.
Where is that, Cara? Do you have a number or a page or something?
It's what
No,
we're looking at right now.
I'm just looking at it right now, 44.
Okay.
Okay, Carl, where did you see that? Right?
No, I just had spoken with somebody today.
Yeah. No,
Where is
I'm
it?
looking, where did you see it on the text that we're looking at on the screen?
I know, I'm trying to find it on here. It was in our,
Okay.
that would be an important part of being in here.
Would be.
Let me
Let's
see,
find
they
out.
did.
It's
2
kinda-
years, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what they have done now is when George made the presentation, which I believe it was 18 months as the
Delay?
actual period of delay. But
So
now
that's
it's
addressed in
24
I, it
months.
looks like?
Yeah, through the chair, if I recall correctly, I think I looked at that and I think it said 2 years, but I could be
Does
wrong.
say 2 years in I. Keep
Okay,
going.
but that's
2
different.
years in age I. Is that where you're talking about it, in I, 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah. 2 years from the date of the determination, unless it's a midway through the paragraph of I.
Okay.
But the question was, that just so you folks know that it's a change from what they originally presented from 18 months to 2 years, which is, yeah, kind of long.
Got it. Okay,
Good eye.
great.
All right. Mhm. And then here we are at the end. So these are our ballot questions. Question 1, general override 2 tiers. So essentially question 1A is the 939, 839, and the breakdown between municipal and public schools is there. Question 1B is the full override, 1.374389, and then the breakdown between municipal departments and public schools is here. We have a brief summary of the ballot question, and that's there. And then, and we did add wording here on question 1B, which says that this amount includes the amount in question 1A, just in case there's confusion. And then the second Prop 2.5 question on the ballot is the OPEB stabilization funding. That's the additional 200,000.
So that was another question I had, is because we had concerns about including that. Do members just want this to go in and have town people vote on it, or we had some concern about asking for $200,000 on top of the override that we were asking? Thoughts?
My recollection, Susan Mary, was we could vote to set up the fund, but not fund it was an option we talked about.
Yeah.
I do think whoever brought up the point of, hey, this is essentially a mini override, or something else that's going to go into the raising taxes on top of what we're already asking. And is that a good idea? We could fund it at a lower level. So Dan, I think I'm remembering your options that you laid out for us. Hey, we can go with it as printed. We could lower the amount, or we could just set up the fund without any dollars. My worry there is that we'll have a fund without any dollars, because it's not something we want to put money towards.
And the thing with this is, it's a definite action to sort of address, the structural deficit. It's taking an item that, has been fluctuating that we don't have a lot of control over, and creating a reserve fund for it that in the future budgets will help alleviate that, but it does take funding, so.
Yeah, through the chair. That's the way it's written in the article as well, that it sets up the fund as well as funds it through the override question. So I guess it can be reworded if that's the way the board so chooses.
Could we fund it with free cash?
I don't believe it.
I don't, yeah, through the chair,
particular one
I don't
can
believe
be,
so as
but-
well.
It wouldn't act in the same way.
Okay. I mean, my preference would be to take this out at this point, only because we are adding to an override, and I don't want people to be confused that this is somehow not an addition to the override. But that's just my opinion on this.
Yeah.
This is helping to pay for stuff we have to pay for anyway, but it's just going to come out of increasingly tight budgets on the town side. So this is a bit of a pressure release to have this put into place.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important to address the structural deficit. I would let the town decide on it personally and leave it there.
Okay.
I agree. As I recall, Jared saying this was just to get us up to level with what other communities are doing. And
That's
if we're
correct. Right. Yeah.
some way, I didn't want to leave that open, but I agree we should just let the town decide.
Bite the bullet. Okay.
Okay.
I
All
get
right.
it.
Then the finance booklet is where, or when is it that we do we support, we don't support each article? And it's usually just the financial ones, right? It's
Yes.
not now, right?
I think
Not now. Generally, we
No.
do
Okay.
it closer, Susan Mary, to town meeting.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
working on that book right now, so they don't even have, I'm sure they're not even, reviewing it yet.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, we'll be working on those recommendations in the next version.
Okay.
Could I go back to number 2 for a minute? On the OPEB thing, I thought that was like a one-time thing. Is that not right? Or that it just goes in and then adds to the overall budget, which then it'll be that part of that 2.5% going forward. But
Yes.
I understood this as a standalone, separate one-time thing. Is that wrong? I don't know.
it's an initial override of $200,000 in order to fund to
Yeah.
fill the fund. But the money is, if it's not used, then it doesn't, and not another additional $200,000 would be taken next year. It would just be topped up to $200,000 plus 2.5%
So
increase.
should the
to rise
board
with the levy.
decide to top it up? Right? I think anytime you're funding it would require a vote of the board, no?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
But the monies could be invested, which is a different way of tackling this, is that you could actually accrue money in it, and that
Right.
is
You can make
pretty
money on the
inventive.
money if you're not
No,
using it.
towns aren't normally doing this, so this is a good idea to capitalize on some money. Okay, any other comments, questions about the warrant? I believe it needs a vote tonight. Okay.
That is correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant with the one reordering of the erosion control bylaw as discussed.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, we'll do by roll call vote. Don?
Aye.
Charles?
Aye.
Cara?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. All right. Ally and Dan and everybody else who put time into that.
Thank
this
you. Thank
week.
you.
Thank you so much. You
Thank
guys are
you.
heroes. I know this is like like going into labor probably, but you guys really rose to the challenge. So thank you. All right. Next is to have any board and liaison reports. Anyone want to jump in, or I can?
No, the only one was the demolition delay bylaw.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Rich, got anything?
Open space and Park and Rec will now start doing some next month, some community meetings regarding the parcel of land we're talking about, asking the town to purchase for a athletic field. So look for more of that. So if you do get questions, we'll be planning to do a report and some town-wide meetings.
Rich, are you doing that through the open space meetings? And if so, when is your next open space meeting?
I don't think we do them through well, obviously we'll keep our open space meetings, but what we're really talking about is, can we go into the neighborhood and meet, or tell everyone from the neighborhood to come to, town hall or something where we can talk in person versus.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's just one person's idea, but we'd ideally like to get everyone in
Right.
person. But if we can't, we may have to do some virtual information sessions.
Great. Okay, great.
Outside of, because we meet on 9 o'clock on Thursday, so not many of us can make it on the committee, let alone the public. So I think this would be more at night, something we'd advertise and make sure everyone comes to. And the idea is to answer questions regarding the purchase of the parcel and potentially land swap in the future years, and what this would look like if we move forward, and what it would look like 6 months from now and 3 years from now.
Yeah.
In terms of those parcels and what the impact would be on the neighborhood.
Great. Thank you for doing that. That's definitely, we need to get the word out and get input.
Yeah.
Or provide info. Okay, great. Anything else?
Not from there.
All right, Don, anything for you? Oh, Charles? Okay, let's see, the Harvard Devon's Jurisdiction Committee meeting happened this week. They did a review of the profit and loss statement that we received from Mass Development, which shows a net of about $70 million in assets sitting there. So it's a very healthy operation at the moment. They do still need a new member, so Victor would love to have someone join who could help with understanding mass development finances and be available for meetings during the day, which is a problem right now. So if you have anyone in mind who, the biggest thing ahead of them is understanding how taxes would work, sort of what would it look like if Harvard were to resume jurisdiction? What's a tax approach? It might be that we need to hire a consultant, but we need someone on the board, on the committee, to understand it as well. The housing working group meets again on April 1st. Laura Scott, who's a Devon's community rep, is interested in getting feedback as to why Vicksburg Square development failed in the past. So I got Paul Green to send me the DAT right up there on that Trinity Financial project, which AIR did not approve, nor did Harvard. So they want to have something that will work this time. The schools, let's see, we did the MSB SOI. The D-Bus contract has been renewed for 1 more year. There's, again, no other options, and transportation costs are going up by 40%. They're finding in districts around, so it's not a great situation, but they've only extended it for a year. They hired out of the capital project that was approved at town meeting. They did a study of the space needs at Bromfield over the last 9 months, and they came up with 5 different build out options, which one would address the middle school entrance, the security of the main entrance, that happens to be the more expensive thing, and classroom allocation. That projects ranged anywhere from 900,000 to 23 million. So they haven't even met to discuss it, what they are going to propose or do, but just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Council on Aging, a shout out again to Bill Ferentz for providing the corn, beef, and cabbage luncheon. They've served about 75 people. They have a new van driver they're very excited about, and we've already handled the issues on the building. That's all I got.
Susan, may I just, through the chair, may I make a comment?
Please, Dan.
For a suggestion, the board did vote to approve the warrant as presented, but they have to vote to close it as well.
Thank you. missing piece there. I move that we close the warrant.
Second.
I'll do by roll call vote. Don,
Aye.
Charles,
Aye.
Cara,
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Good catch. All right, I'll open it again, unless there's any other reports, anything, moving on, closing ones. All right, moving on to public communication. I'll open up for any public communication. If you can turn on your video and wave at us, great. I see you, Susan. Anyone else, please turn your video on. And I see Ellen. All right, we'll start there. Susan, please give us your name and address. And
Susan Tarrant, Oak Hill Road. Thanks, Susan Mary and the rest of the board. So I have 2 points to make, and I wanted to direct one to Don specifically. Don, you were good enough to answer my question at the last meeting about the need for an apology to the town, and you did apologize, which I appreciated. What I would ask you now is, and directly to you, is why you've not taken the next step, which was to resign from the board as your colleagues on the board requested. So that's one for you. And then one for the board itself is that many members of the town attended that last meeting when we were very concerned about the postings that Mr. Ludwig had made on Twitter. And yet we've heard nothing from the select board as a response to the town about this matter. Thank you.
thank you, Susan. Ellen.
Hi. So just quickly on the erosion control, if it is a planning board, I know we keep saying this, but climate doesn't write bylaws. We work with the planning board on this, and this is something that the planning board is putting forward. So again, it is with climate, but I don't want it to appear as if it's just a climate one. This is something that went through the planning board, and that's where all the public meetings are being held. The second thing I want to say is I don't think anybody understands it, and I'm trying my best to get that information out there. When I came to the select board after Brian and I did the energy piece, I tried to say a few sentences. I think I was by then exhausted from all the stuff that we talked about on energy and putting that proposal in front of the select board that I didn't do. And I say to myself, a good job of trying to explain what the erosion control bylaw, the amendment to that is. So we will be doing public meetings. It is mostly focused on clear cutting and the minor permit. It's also written that way to have that in there because the developers who we did speak to, a few people said they want it all in one place. They don't want permits all over the place. And so there is information that we put in there so that that would work for the developers. And also, again, it's about this total clear cutting. It's about water runoff. And I have pictures to show the before and after where that happens around town. I understand the concern about the private property owners, and I would more than willing to talk about that as well. The private property owner piece is basically, and the tree warden's on here too if he wants to say something, is basically a consultation. There's no penalties. There's nothing we can do if people don't follow it, but it is something to call the tree warden and get some education if you're going to take down a ton of trees that are 12 inches in diameter or bigger. And tell you the truth, there's not that many on a lot of properties that are that big. And if it's, 5 or more, again, I'll listen to what everyone says. We're taking input, but you could take 30 trees down in your yard and no one's going to bother you if they're small. And again, it's for runoff that can affect you as a neighbor. And again, it's also for just a protection, yes, from a climate perspective of the tree canopy, the shade, and everything else. So I hope I will be putting information about this. I wouldn't mind coming back to the select board and giving 5 minutes of what J.C. Ferguson and I did with the planning board, and we are having again on April 7th, public meeting on this, but I think there's just not an understanding of it, and doing our best to get that information out. But this is really focused on clear cutting, and this is something people on the planning board wanted. We have a lot of development, people take down all their trees, and then we have runoff, and then we have no trees that protect them and protect us. And it's a rural area, and that's why we all moved here, and that's what every survey says. So again, I'm not trying to, I hear where the board is, and there's not a lot of support, but I think everybody needs to understand what it's about, and I will do my best with J.C. Ferguson and others to try to get that information out there, but
Ellen,
please
that's the 3
understand
minutes.
for what
I
it's about.
apologize.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ellen.
Ellen. Thank
Yep.
you, Ellen.
Colleen, is that a wave of a public comment? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Any other public comment? All right. Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everyone, for being generous with your time tonight. And thanks again for the work on the warrant, Ally and Dan.
I move to adjourn.
To
Thank you.
adjourn.
Is there a second? Great. Don?
Aye.
Charles?
Aye.
Cara?
Aye.
And Rich?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julie. Get better, Dan.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Thank you.